Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I could probably watch everything Rutger Hauer's done.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Nighthawks, which released in 1981, from writers David Shaber and Paul Silbert, and directed by Bruce Malmuth and uncredited Gary Nelson. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows a couple of New York sergeants working for the police force. We follow Sergeant Deke De Silva and Sergeant Matt Fox, played by Sylvester Stallone and Billy D. Williams, as they are assigned to a special terrorism task force to take down Wolfgar, played by Rutger Hauer.
Jetzt!
So this film is a little bit notorious for having some production problems, even before the film actually began. The script started off as a sequel to The French Connection.
Yeah.
However, it wasn't meant to be, and Universal got their hands on it and rewrote the film. And so this was a vehicle for Sylvester Stallone to sort of branch out from his Rocky persona, which of course is what made him quite famous at this point. But the production problems I've heard from this film come from, well, Sylvester Stallone himself, who had also, over the years, admitted that he was the problem behind the scenes with this film. The original director, as I said, had an uncredited, was fired or walked away from the project within a week of filming.
Yeah.
And so they brought in this guy who I'd never heard of, no idea what other films he'd made of, but you can kind of imagine that, considering Sylvester Stallone had some fallouts with the Directors Guild of America, because Sylvester Stallone took ownership and directed some of the scenes in the film, particularly a chase sequence.
Yeah.
Because the replacement director wasn't able to get there on time.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, but I honestly believe that the majority of this film was probably shadow directed by Stallone.
Yeah, I feel
and
that.
he might have just had a puppet director in there, just to not annoy the Directors Guild of America anymore. But there's other production problems I hear, that there was a massive falling out with Rutger Hauer and Sylvester Stallone. Rutger Hauer's kind of said that he knew coming over to make this film with Stallone that Stallone was, a star and Hollywood icon or becoming one.
Yeah.
But he had like a flop or two, some box office duds. And so he was kind of desperate to make this film work. And so he was not the most pleasant person to work with, and they also shot the very final scene of the film first, which put Stallone and Rutger at odd ends. So much so that when the film was wrapped up, Stallone's reaction to test audiences saw that they really warmed or were interested or liked the Rutger Hauer scenes.
Yeah.
So Stallone went out of his way to cut as many of those scenes as possible and make sure that he was more prominent in the film.
Yeah.
However, Universal Studios took that cut and then recut the movie yet again, cutting out at least half an hour from the movie, so that what we finally got was... it was a mishmash. It was put together and
production.
It actually was critically received fairly well and actually made all of its money back and then some. But so I was kind of surprised. Today, I'm like, Sylvester Stallone, Rutger Hauer, I love these guys. How come I'd never heard of this damn movie?
When you said we were reviewing this, I just thought you got Lady Hawk wrong.
Right?
You're like, oh, Rutger Hauer's in it. I was just like, oh, isn't it Matthew Broderick, not fucking Sylvester Stallone? So then, obviously, I looked into it as well and read about the production problems. And yeah, the final sequence, I mean, not trying to skip too far ahead, Rutger Hauer was injured.
Twice over.
Yeah, taking squib damage from the sequence, and it's just like, you really don't want that in like the start of your movie. The same thing with the replacement director. He wasn't able to make it there on day one, so then Stallone went, well, I'll take over and I'll do this whole action sequence, which isn't bad, but like, he's just come off the back of Rocky. Rocky 2?
Yeah.
So he's already won an Oscar.
Yeah.
He's already written it. Stallone's proven himself in Hollywood that he can actually do the job when it comes to it. So then when he's actually made to act and the director is clashing with him, like you said, I forgot to really look into the backgrounds of both the original and the replacement, but nothing screamed at me to say, oh yeah, you got to check these guys out. But with the film as well, it does, especially the start, it does feel a bit of a mishmash, because you immediately start off December 31st, New York City. You've got this woman leaving this phone booth in the middle of the night. She's walking down the street. Visually, I will say right off the bat, visually, most of the New York City stuff, pretty goddamn good.
I'm glad you said that, because the first thing I thought about this film was how striking visually it is. And
Yeah.
I love New York-based movies where they get that cinematography that makes it look dark and dingy and violent and
mate,
kind of frightening.
Yeah, this is the same year as Escape from New York.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, John Carpenter didn't film his stuff there. But when I look at this film, I'm like, oh man, yeah, it's New York City. It's dingy, it's grimy.
And I love the shot where we have the lady sort of walking towards the camera and we've got this thug sort of hiding around the corner.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, the shot composition and everything, the framing was really, really good. So I was like, okay, I'm interested in what's going to happen. And they surround this lady ready to mug her, demanding her
lady.
purse. Of
This
course,
lady.
'cause this lady, I was like, I mean, she looks quite hench for an old
Yeah,
lady.
I'm looking at her face. I'm like, what the is wrong with this woman's face? And my brain's like, it's Stallone in a dress. It's
is.
Stallone in a dress.
He whips off the mask and then Billy D jumps out as well and they start chasing off the thugs.
I mean, police brutality. Fucking hell, like he throws a purse at the guy as he runs on the street.
He's like bleeding all over the face.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a violent situation and it demanded a violent answer.
Yeah, but you can get the feeling as well that Billy D. Williams' character, Matt Fox, and De Silva, they're the loose cannon badasses of the police force. I did love the shot where he gets up onto the train station platform and he fights the guy and Stallone's just like, come on, Ed, come on, He-Man, come and get me. Like, he's really, and you're like, all right.
Hi, Rocky.
Hi, Rocky. Calm down. And he properly takes out the guy and then he drags him along the platform while reading him his rights. Like, I really like that sequence.
Yeah,
You have the right to a legal counsel. You have the right to remain silent. And anything you say can be used in a court of law against you. Amen.
But then immediately it's December 31st, London, and you're like, okay, stay on the same timeline. And a young Rutger Hauer, he's walking into a department store. He walks up to a young cashier who's kind of the young Maggie.
Catherine Mary Stewart.
Starfire.
I know.
Yeah.
So straight away I was like, oh, shit. I mean, Rutger Hauer's very creepy when he approaches her and tells her how pretty she is. I'm like, well, she is. But yeah, Rutger Hauer is creepy as fuck.
Like, did they dub over her voice?
Yes, they did.
Because it's shit.
She said she couldn't believe that she was dubbed over, but she said she tried to deliver the best accent that they had asked for.
I think you'd be interested in this more, sir. Would you like to smell it? What do you think?
She says, what? You're in London.
That's it, you're in London. And he while he's talking to the cashier, he sneaks this package underneath her booth, which was a bit heartbreaking, knowing what was coming next. And then he walks outside and he gets into the phone booth to make this call. And as he does that, boom, massive, huge explosion. People are screaming, people are running. And he delivers this line of, the Wolfgar connection, or Wolfgar control, where, we're going to do more of these acts. Your governments should be afraid, blah, blah. He's like a top-notch terrorist.
Yeah, of what? And fighting,
Terrorism,
fighting for what?
He's a terrorist. He doesn't need to fight for anything. Hans
Hans
Gruber didn't fight for shit, and he was a terrorist.
No, he wanted money.
He was a terrorist.
He wanted money.
Well, so does Wolfgar.
No, he doesn't.
He does. He likes the parties and the rich clothes. He likes money.
He likes to go to discos and pick up lonely women so he can plant his guns and grenades at their houses.
Hey, don't question the Wolfgar control.
I like my villains in my movies, and I like to know what my villain's fighting for. And Rutger Hauer Wolfgar isn't really fighting for anything. I think he makes a comment about the bomb in London being against British colonialism.
Yeah,
and I was like, what, mate?
But could they have also cut all that stuff out? Could somebody have sat there and gone,
No, really, like Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah. Like I said, if the audience is getting behind Wolfgar's character, then maybe Wolfgar is really selling that he's doing this because his mum, his dog, his dad, his sister, and his brother were all killed in an explosion by American forces and such date, and so he's not really the
because anything sort of hang that villain coat on I could have got behind,
Yeah.
but otherwise it's just I'm terrorist, and it's like they're just throwing that word around without any real meaning.
I mean, like, if there's a fine line between terrorist and rebel,
Yeah.
like, were you having for anybody? What was that? But it was kind of interesting because it jumps all the way back to January 4th, New York, and we're following De Silva and Matt Fox infiltrate this building, whip out shotguns. like I like it. Like, it's action-y fucking cop shit, but that's what it feels like. It's action-y cop shit. They're not actually going by the book.
Right. Now, this is what I kind of get into some character problems with the film, and I like that this film has character development, or at least parts of it.
Yeah.
Where Deke De Silva is, he's being pulled in and he's being trained with his partner, with these other police officers on counter-terrorist sort of tactics and systems, and he gets upset with their methods. And he's just like, I didn't sign up to be a police officer to kill people. Yeah. And I'm like, well, that scene at the beginning was pretty violent. Yeah. That scene where you burst in on that raid with a shotgun was pretty violent, or at least you intended to be. Yeah. So I don't understand where this soft cop kind of nature is coming from, especially a New York cop. And then when his brilliant actor, Nigel Davenport, playing Peter Hartman, who's giving these lectures, says to him, I pulled up your record. You served in the military. You've got like over 50 confirmed kills.
Yeah, he went to Vietnam. I was like, Rambo!
Right? That's exactly. And then he's just like, I don't want to kill people. I want to, Adrian, all right, help me out here. He's got Billy D. And I'm like, and the chemistry between the two of them is really good as well.
Yeah, but Billy D didn't have anything.
No, he has his moments where he's there, and I was like, the chemistry really works, but he does so much so become a sideline character until he almost disappears entirely from the film, which is kind of sad because they kind of work together. So I was like, it's like Pre-Lethal Weapon. I know there's tons of buddy cop movies, but I don't know how far to trace them back, But they had a good, a good energy there, and apparently the two of them also worked with the police in New York City overnight as well to kind of see how they worked and pick up on some of that terminology, etc. And so they were kind of convincing.
Yeah, well, obviously, if they've done a couple of nights of New York City in the 80s, and this is how they're acting, then police brutality at that time was a...
Well, I mean, it's always been a problem.
But we cut back as well, again, to January 6th, London, and Wolfgar is at a party with some university girls, or just people, and he's got a guitar, and a guy turns up. Now, it doesn't necessarily actually say, or I might have missed it, but this guy works for the same kind of group that Wolfgar is working for. Wolfgar is not actually in charge. There's other people. And so I was just like, oh, maybe it was like the IRA or something who assigned him this job in London. And they're pissed at him because a couple of kids were killed in the bombing. And Wolfgar's attitude towards it is like, well, that's the nature of war and stuff like that, But he realizes that the guy had not only been picked up by the police, but he's brought the police to Wolfgar. And so then Wolfgar goes out to the police, pulls out a fucking Uzi, mows 3 of them down, and then turns to the guy and goes, you're going to a better place.
Right.
And Uzi's him.
Yeah.
You go to a better life.
It's like, whoa.
Well, I mean, I guess the Uzis are pretty quiet. It was like nobody heard it over the music.
Well, yeah, the music.
But I was just like, I mean, it didn't make this terrorist organization look very smart, It's like, well, no. But then Wolfgar, he ends up going off and meeting with Shaka, who's played by Circe Kambata, who you recognise from Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Yep.
Or maybe not, actually.
Yeah. Well, it's the hair.
But they're in France for a little while, and then he gets convinced that he's going to have some plastic surgery because he's going to be identified now.
But it is established, though, in the church sequence that he's been ostracized from their group. Like I said, the people in charge have said, no, Wolfgar is a loose cannon. We don't want him working for us anymore because, like we said, we don't really know because maybe it was edited out, but his ideals don't match up to the same ideals of the terrorist group that he's working for. He's so maniacal, he'll just build a bomb or kill people and do something so that he's noticed or whatever. And it then, it does make him just seem like a bog standard villain. Somebody who's a maniac who's just going to go out and kill people instead of actually giving him a reason of why he's committing these terrorist acts. But she and he then go to this plastic surgeon, and the surgeon's going on about something about his nose not being the right shape. You then find out from Peter Hartman's character that the French surgeon was killed, and that's how they know Wolfgar has left Europe to come to America, because nobody else is going to hire him. Everybody in the Middle East have got their own problems. Nobody in Europe's going to hire him, so he's coming to America to obviously make his mark. And that's where they've decided to then build up this task force, which at the time, I think was relatively new.
Yeah.
You know, nobody had ever threatened to fly to New York and blow something up.
Yeah. Well, then we get extended sequences of this lecture as we then lock eyes on Wolfgar and Deke as he stares at the picture of him and he starts doodling his image.
That was so Stallone.
Yeah. I don't know, the editing here, just like, for me the pacing was just nosediving pretty hard here.
What I mean by so Stallone is like we're pre-80s action hero, we're pre-Demolition Man, Judge Dredd 90s with Cliffhanger. How many times would you see an action movie with Stallone where he just kind of looks at you and then the villain looks back and you know the villain's going to die in the next like 20 seconds? That's why he does it to fucking Ivan Drago as well in Rocky 4.
But then we also get some more backstory to Deke, and we find out that his wife has left him because he was so obsessed with the police work.
Yeah.
He's somehow not obsessed with the police work when he's having these lectures about terrorists. And so he tries to make up with his wife.
Yeah.
Who's just like doesn't really want anything to do with him. And apparently, halfway through the movie, at some point they speak again, and she's like, "Well, maybe we'll do dinner, a fortnight from now, a weekend from now."
Well, the movie's trying to establish her as like the end goal, for
he can sort his life out and get his wife back.
Yeah, after he's defeated Wolfgar, which a lot of the time, what cliche Wolfgar is probably going to find out about the wife and use it against him. And even Davenport even mentions it. Like, I've looked at your file. I know the histories of all you, and Wolfgar will know exactly the same, so he can squeeze you. That's the nature of terrorists. Terrorism.
So, it was originally going to be used to further develop the character, but it was edited down to just service the plot, so that we could have a setup for the ending when we get to there. But from here to the end of the film, we do actually have some interesting sequences where Deke and Fox go to all of the discos and all of the venues to try and track down where Wolfgar might be, because...
it's because obviously he's met up with a girl at a disco, and then he's blown up something in the financial district which made them aware that Wolfgar was in the city.
That's right.
But he's not left any real evidence, because this is just how he starts up.
Well, until he's taken this girl and killed her because she found all those grenades.
She's like, what's this big luggage box in my wardrobe? Oh my god, guns!
Exactly. I'm like, Wolfgar, you're not very smart, really, are you? Like, Rutger Hauer is intimidating and he has that villain presence, but his character is written like an idiot who just makes so many mistakes. I'm like, it's no wonder you're going to get caught, because he left a map with circled, financial district bomb locations. It's like, Jesus, man, you left the map on the table.
Did he intentionally do that to terrorize them?
Oh, no.
No, it's really badly written. But like Gary said, Fox and De Silva go to clubs and they start searching around. It's a bit of a montage sequence. Do you know this girl? Do you know this girl? No. Oh, actually, yeah, we've seen her here. So then I'm like, all right, it can't be tonight. Wolfgar would not
go
be
back
fucking
to the
here.
exact same place and try to get him. Like, how
when he
stupid
knows
are you?
the police are looking for him. And I did like the way the film establishes, like, it had like, what, 2 or 3 guys that kind of look like him?
Yeah.
But you're like, is he? No, that's not him. That's not him. Oh, no, that's that motherfucker over there, because they got the eyes.
Right.
The eyes.
But I was like, wait a minute. He hasn't had plastic surgery. He's had a haircut and a shave.
I think he did slightly reposition his nose. I didn't actually go back and have a look.
Yeah, he's...
Because, I mean, he does still look exactly the same. De Silva's just like, if I do this and do that, he's right over there. And you're like, oh, shit. And so instead of just going over...
we need to just eyeball each other for a while.
I couldn't... I was just like, is this police procedure? Because you could literally call up Hartman and be like, I think we've got him.
Surround the building.
Surround the building, or let's...
No, wait, they haven't got phones, remember? They got these giant walkie-talkies.
Or at least... Watch him go. Let him
Right,
follow
yes,
him.
tail him.
Tail him. See him go. But no, fucking De Silva walks over with Fox. The two of them don't even split up because Billy D. Williams is like, I'm not dying without you.
I'm the sidekick, which means I stay behind you and to your side.
Yeah. And so then they're walking, and then he just shouts Wolfgar.
Yeah.
You know, after they've locked eyes, and fucking Rutger Hauer pulls out a gun and shoots somebody right in the back, right? They shoot this person in the back. And everyone goes, huh? What was that?
I know, and I was like, Wolfgar, how stupid are you, man? Like, you've got a crowd of dancers you can easily slip by, but now that you've shot someone, you've brought even more attention to yourself. But still somehow he manages to get away, because
He runs fast.
Because Deke would not take the shot. It's interesting you should say that he runs fast.
Right, okay.
Just to go with some of the on-set animosity between these two actors.
Yeah.
Rutger Hauer was told, like, Sylvester Stallone, he trains every day. He runs up the sides of buildings, just before breakfast.
Yeah.
And apparently during the chase sequence, Rutger Hauer continuously outpaced Rocky
course.
over and over again.
Rutger Hauer's just like, I came from Europe, mate. We ran to school and back. Because there's that sequence, like they run for ages through the streets, they're having a bit of a shootout, and then they get into the subway, which, like we said, was filmed and edited or whatever by Stallone. And so it is really kind of actiony from the moment they enter the subway to the moment that, spoilers, Wolfgar gets away. But I really love that open shot where you got all the workmen working on the tunnel, and fucking Rutger Hauer's like down and on the floor, fucking bombing it to the camera. I'm like, where's Stallone? He's like, oh, here he comes. Oh yeah, he's gonna make his way down and chase him. And then they run along the tracks, and that's, like we said, this is how fast Rutger Hauer was. He slipped over and still outpaced them.
Right? He ends up taking an old lady hostage.
Yeah.
He gets onto the train. He gets all the way to the front before before Deke and Matthew can catch up with Wolfgar. They've got to the next station, and he manages to escape again.
Well, he jumps out, doesn't he? They chase him for a little bit, and then that's when they split up. And while they're split up, Billy D. Williams gets sliced right across the face by Wolfgar.
I was impressed that he survived, because I was like, typical sort of film like this is where the partner dies.
Yeah.
This is where you have the actual emotional weight of your best friend dying to want to bring the villain down. But
that's it. Stallone
no, he just gets
it.
hospitalized. And then while he's laying there being stretchered out, he's like, you should have took the shot. You should have took the shot. And I'm like, you got a gun! Matthew Fox,
yeah,
like,
Matthew
what are
Fox,
you...
you literally stood there with him going, I can't see him. And yeah, okay, you might have shot him. One life, or the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one, or whatever kind of thing. But that's the weight of the movie. That's the weight of De Silva's character, is that he doesn't want to kill any more people. He just wants to kill the villain. And so then when he's screaming in the subway like, I'm gonna kill you! I'm gonna kill you, fucker! I was like, oh, Wolfgar.
Oh, man, that was so cringe. It was so cringy. I like the way that it faded into the sound of the subway train. But I was like, man, like, your partner's not dying. Right? He's got a nasty cut. There are people around. He's got a real nasty cut. There's a couple of stitches and he'll be all right. I was like, but you could have pursued him more. You just didn't. You just decided to start yelling after him. I was like...
I mean, it was a bad movie at that moment. It would have been a really bad movie if you just shot Wolfgar and ended the film.
Well, I mean, the chase could have continued and he could have been put, immobilized in some way. But to just hang there with his friend who's got a cut cheek... Yeah, it's a pretty deep cut, I give you. But for me, it was just another moment where I was like, you've let the villain get away when you could have continued chasing him.
Kill it, motherfucker! You're fucking dead, you motherfucker! You're fucking dead!
Wolfgar heads to like a shop and establishes like the shop as now his new base. And that's when Shaka hooks up with Wolfgar again, and he's then establishing like, look, the British guy is here. He's been following us. He knows everything about you. The cops are on you as well. If you're gonna make your big statement, you need to do it soon. So they go to like the was it UN representatives or the senators are having like an evening do. It was such a weird shift of tone that all of a sudden we're at this kind of giant museum. These people are having lunches, and Stallone's just like, hey, There's everybody in position, and Hartman's just like, yes, we've got the south side covered, the north side covered, the top covered, the bottom covered, and Stallone's like, well, are you hungry? Why? You want to get some Chinese after this? I was like...
Well, listen. Are you hungry? Bit. Chinese food later? Look forward to it.
What the fuck, Stallone? Like, I know you and Hartman have kind of bonded slightly over trying to catch Wolfgar, but you're asking your boss out for Chinese?
Right. I was like, well, that's ominous. Oh, what's happening right now? Shaka's coming. Oh, no.
How the fuck did Shaka get in this place?
Exactly. I'm like, so not only the terrorist imbeciles, but the police force with all of their security checks and everything have just let a terrorist into this highly secure facility who just happens to kill your lecturer on terrorists.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like his final line where he's just kind of like, Shaka? And he says it like shit, you know? And he's dead. Oh god. And oh my god, the dialogue here where Deke is just like, I know how this man thinks, I know how to get into his head. And I'm like, no you don't, you barely had a scene with him. I'm like, what is this?
I've got in his head, he kills people, I need to kill him. It's like, where the fuck's this film coming from? And then Wolfgar and Shaka come up with the idea that if they get into the train car kind of...
The cable car,
the cable car in New York City, they can take a bunch of people hostage, and...
There's a couple of the UN representatives in there as well.
Yeah, but ultimately he wants a bus and a plane to get out of the city.
Yeah, I was like, this has got to be the most stupidest, like... villain terrorist thing to do.
At this moment, when I was sat here, this really felt like Dirty Harry, the movie,
right.
Instead of like this counter-terrorist kind of thing. Because Wolfgar's character, like we said, is just being so bland. And not Rutger Hauer. Rutger Hauer's
brilliant, yeah.
Great, but he's had nothing to work with, or whatever he's been working with has been edited out, so his character is just completely two-dimensional, wooden, bland, and him just in this cable car with these hostages, with his guns, with Shaka, it's just like, it's fucking Dirty Harry all over again, because De Silva is Dirty Harry trying to bring down the big villain. Even Fox is just kind of left operating the radio because of the scar.
Yeah, this is where his role really gets diminished here. He does snipe and kill Shaka later.
Yeah,
when they transition from the cable car to get onto the bus. But yeah, that's his like final scene there, I think, as well as hers.
Yeah, but Stallone, I read as well, was terrified of heights.
He's terrified of heights, and I can relate. I understand, but he did all of his own stunts in the film. Again, he's got something to prove. He's Mr. Ego at this point in time. Yeah. He has, of course, since apologized for it, which I'm kind of glad because I do like Stallone and like his movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great stunt as he gets. I mean, at first. I've just praised him, but I also just want to say that his acting in the sequence before was atrociously bad. Like, for some reason, he gets in a helicopter and flies up like right next to the cable car so they can see each other through the glass.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, if Wolfgar wanted to, he could shoot at the helicopter and just kill you right now. Like, he's got nothing stopping him. I'm surprised he didn't. But he's like, no, I want you in here. I've got a message. So he gets hoisted up, goes up the system, and he's like, here you go. Here's the baby. Save the baby.
Yeah, because I don't want to be
But if you drop the baby, I don't care. Just don't drop this note, because this I need you to make sure that the press get it. Well, and then they send it back down again.
The sequence is so stupid because it's just like, he shot a woman! He killed this woman in cold blood and thrown her out! But he's going to let the baby go because he doesn't want to come across as evil, because that's what got him in trouble in the first place with everybody else. And he's literally trying to, like Gary said, he's terrorizing who for what other than De Silva's ego. And so then De Silva comes up with this great idea of getting a tape player attached to him with a microphone, because Wolfgar wants De Silva to drive the bus to pick him up and all the hostages so that they can get to the plane. So along comes Stallone on the bus. I thought it was cool. Wolfgar tied everybody's hands so they turned into a kind of protective shield around him. They moved out. They were making their way to the bus. And then De Silva presses a button which fucking plays Hartman's voice and goes, Shaka. And she's like, motherfucker. And as she lunges for Stallone, that's when Billy D. Williams fucking shoots her in the head.
Yeah.
And it all just then fucking kicks off into some crazy shit. Because there's a gunfight and fucking Wolfgar jumps on the bus and drives the bus off into the river.
Yeah, there was a nice little ramp there for him.
Yeah.
So that was, again, a cool stunt, you know, that's pretty cool. And somehow he gets out of there, even though there's helicopters flying above him, there's spotlights, there's police, everything, and somehow he gets away.
Yeah.
Somehow he doesn't drown or freeze to death or get pulled away in the current or whatever.
Get poisoned by the fucking water there because it's fucking horrible as fuck.
But just like it was foreshadowed earlier, he does find out about Deke's ex-wife and decides, well, I guess I need some payback and I'm going to go there and kill her.
And I sat there, I shit you not, I sat there, I'm like, if this is Stallone in a dress again, I'm going to laugh.
Well, get ready to laugh. I mean, this is what's coming. We watch him, you know, take away the chain. He bursts the door in. He pulls out his knife. He sneaks in. And just when he's getting ready to make the attack, Stallone turns around in a wig and blasts Wolfgar twice.
Yeah.
Although there's 5 bullet wounds.
Yeah.
As he flies back out through the door. Now, this film, like most of our favourite films, got screwed over by the MPAA. They went, no, it's too gory, too many boobies, you can't have them. And so a lot of the...
Boobies? When were the boobies?
Well, they probably cut too. I think there's probably a sex scene in there somewhere that got cut, you know.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the big killing of Wolfgar was massively edited down. He was supposed to have shot multiple times, including blowing his brains out, and there was a Rutger Hauer head made with the head exploding out.
Yeah.
But of course, all cut, all removed from the film. Apparently, they tried to find that footage for the Blu-ray and special editions of the film, but they just can't find it anywhere. It's kind of lost. So it's kind of a shame. But I don't think they edited it too well together here. They could have at least just added in the gunshot sounds to make up for all the the blood, the wounds.
What they should have done is they should have ended it on a knife fight like the beginning was. Him and Rutger Hauer having a fucking knife
tussling
fight,
with a knife.
and then he ends up getting a gun and blam, maybe,
Yeah.
End it on a fucking high.
No, it kind of just ends on a freeze frame as he sits on the stairs. And I'm like, oh, jeez, like, there's not even a follow-up. It's just like, Rutger Hauer's dead. Yeah, fuck it, end your movie.
End your movie right now.
You're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you have any favourite scenes?
A couple, really. I mean, I did kind of really struggle to get through the midpoint of the movie, but the beginning and the end kind of had some cool moments. I did really like the opening sequence with Stallone in a wig, whipping off the mask and then chasing the guy. And especially, like I said, that train platform sequence I thought was really well shot, really well made up. Just listening to him as well drag the guy. Some of the shots with Rutger Hauer, really good. Establishing him as the terrorist, as a villain, he's great. He's a lovely villain. But it's that point where he speaks to Pam, I think it is, the fucking airline pilot.
Pan Am.
Yeah, and she's like, I'm an air stewardess. What do you do? He's like, I'm an international terrorist and I'm being hunted by the police. She's like, ha ha ha. And I'm like, oh, you're so dead, bitch. Nigel Davenport as the inspector, the stuff with them sitting there learning about Wolfgar was kind of boring, but he, with his British accent and his kind of experience behind of what he's selling his character to me, so even with all of the editing that Stallone possibly tried to do or the studio tried to do, when he has that conversation with Stallone about how many confirmed kills he had, I'm like, man, Rambo, it's fucking Rambo.
Yeah.
And I did feel bad when he was shot at the end by Shaka, who, she's a really pretty actress, and I was kind of sad. I read about obviously how she had passed away, and Star Trek motion picture. So, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I really struggled for favourite scenes as well. I mean, there's some memorable moments. I did like the sequence again at the beginning. The cinematography, as we mentioned, it was really striking, really engaging to get you in the subway sequence. And yeah, I liked him dragging him across the frame, reading him his rights, and ending it with an amen.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, I get it. I get a feel for this character and this world that we're going to be in for the next hour and a half, 2 hours. And yeah, so very strong opening scene. The cable car scene over Manhattan, as ridiculous as some of it was, I just want to say that Stallone's acting when he does shoot someone, he's like, oh no, he killed a woman, he killed a hostage, he's killing hostages in there. I was like, Stallone, could you put some emotion, some weight into what's happening instead of just being deadpan like you're a zombie, reading a script? It was just so flat. I was like, I was really taken aback at how awful some of his acting was in this film. But I don't want to say that he was entirely bad.
No.
And a lot of the other scenes, he was worthwhile. It was just quite a few moments where I was like, is he thinking about something else right now?
Yeah.
Other than what's going on?
Oh, Christ, don't do it. Oh, God damn it, Matt, he killed her.
But I really did like the sequence where he is pulled up inside the cable car and they have that meeting, that standoff. It's quite tense. Obviously, he's got the Uzi in his face the entire time. But yeah, the acting there I thought was really good. And perhaps the animosity that the actors felt against each other on set bled into their characters.
Yeah.
It felt tense in that cable car. So
Yeah.
that was a memorable moment. Of course, the bus crashing, into the river, that was great. Like, great stunt, great practical effect. They've done it very well, and I was surprised. And I also think that the underground subway chase sequence was very effective as well.
Yeah.
From the chase from the nightclub all the way to him getting away. It's a very good moment. You forget the pacing at that point. The editing is really good. The music.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about the music briefly. The music in this film was, I'm going to say, it was hit and miss. It was brilliant, atmospheric, and got you in the mood. And sometimes it was like a 1960s kind of hokey, dated, and cringy. It didn't gel very well with the film. Now, of course, the musician, when he composed the score for the film, was for sequences and scenes which were much longer, which of course Stallone edited and cut, then the studio edited and cut, so the music kind of got mismatched in places, I think, and so it didn't work very well. But Iain, do you recommend Nighthawks?
I try to, but the only thing I could say to watch this movie for is watching early Stallone, pre-Rambo, pre-Expendables, pre-90s Stallone, like Gary didn't like him really in Oscar. I'm surprised he fucking even stood him in this. But, that's the thing. Maybe working with Rutger Hauer made him try to be a better actor, a better person behind the scenes. He had this ego coming off the back of Rocky. He'd fought for it. He'd earned it. I got that. And so that kind of feeds into Nighthawk. But at the same time, balancing him against Rutger Hauer, who I know is just really good in a lot of his stuff. This is his debut in America, and he got fucking slashed up by another actor who just had too much control and took away a lot of scenes. I would have liked to have got behind the Wolfgar character, because that may have made me get behind De Silva's actions against Wolfgar. But instead, it's just, let's get into one action sequence with another action sequence and then kill the villain off at the end. It's an hour and a half long, which isn't too bad, but at the same time, we've said it before, sometimes it seems really fucking long when nothing's fucking happening. So maybe?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, as well, as I can only really, honestly, somewhat recommend Nighthawks as a slightly better than average action thriller, really. I mean, it has some great aspects, and there are some memorable moments with a top tier cast, but for me, this cat and mouse game didn't fully deliver. It did, however, introduce American audiences to the captivating, scene-stealing greatness of Rutger Hauer, who is fantastic in this. Rutger excels as a villain who was well-written and threatening and believable, and probably the best reason to give this film a watch. Stallone was pretty decent, it's a small departure from his usual characters, but not a fully developed one, as Deke felt as conflicted as the struggles behind the scenes, with little exploration or payoff, making him hard to relate to. Billy D was great, had some good chemistry with Stallone, but felt underused and then sidelined. The pace is slow. It gets tedious at times with some rough editing and poor story development, but the cinematography was great. It captured the action well, and it showcased New York City's dirty, crime-filled underbelly with good lighting and shadows. The music score by Keith Emerson, it sounds horribly outdated at times, almost comical in effect, while also being perfectly pitched at other times in the film. And, it's kind of in reflection of my breakdown of the film is that it's not a bad film and it's not a great film. It didn't really work for me narratively, but it's always worth a watch to see a nearly forgotten film with Rutger Hauer. One man can bring the world to its knees, and only one man can stop him. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.